Knowledge is power. Make an impact by learning more. Call us right now for more help at 866-945-8070. How to create a cash flow forecast map, a cash flow map. I kind of put forecast in there because some people might not understand exactly what I mean when I say cash flow map. So I figured that covers all bases. But here's the idea. If you read the write-up, I explained really where this all came from. And what I've done here is I've made something that was very dynamic. Initially, I laid it out very crude and manual just to get the layout and see what I wanted it to look like, right? So I started off by just putting the numbers here, 1 through 31. Notice today lights up. I happen to be recording this on February 24th. And then I looked at when my revenues come in. As I mentioned in the write-up, most of my revenues come in very consistently because I have clients who set up subscriptions and their card gets charged same day, every month, same amount. I noticed something interesting right off the bat just doing that part of the revenues, which was that I had money coming in from the 1st through the 6th, and then almost nothing from the 6th through the 16th. And I realized that's a big cash flow gap. That tells me something very important, that between the 6th and the 16th, whatever's in the bank, I have to conserve because not much more is coming in between that, unless I happen to get something in the area that's less predictable, like training clients, right? Where people come in and pay for a one-on-one or a one-on-one plan. So that's less predictable. And for that, I said to myself, you know, I know whom I've been talking to. It's not often that people sign up for that without talking to me first, because they usually have questions and they want to know, do they need an hour? Do they need 20 hours? So I usually have a good idea of what's in the pipeline for training. So I went out and, you know, at the later part of the month when I was initially doing this, which was recently now, I looked at today and I said, okay, you know, I've got this one guy I know that in the next week will probably come in for, you know, $22.50 or whatever it was. So I put him in there. And as you can see, I just keyed in the amount. And of course, it flows to the total for money in. And if we look down at the bottom, I made this more generic, obviously. But I brought it in. At first, I was going to give you as an example just a line item for payroll. But I said, no, you know, the whole idea here is you can be specific. You can list out each of your employees so you can kind of see what exactly their payroll is going to be. And this probably should get copied over for the 1st and the 16th, right, if that's how you pay your payroll each month. So let's do that, right? And the taxes, I just threw in a quick formula that says add up the total of these times 7.65%, which is your Social Security and Medicare. And then you have the employer share. So actually, we should multiply that by 2 because the employer has to kick in their share of that. So that takes care of that. And what I'm showing you here is you don't have to get into the technical details of calculating the payroll taxes, but what you just saw me do, which is what makes this, I think, really great, is in a second I was able to just update it based on, you know, just looking at it, analyzing it, and deciding, do I have enough in here? Let's say I have suppliers I know I need to pay over the next week. That's why I wanted the day that we're in to light up, because I wanted to quickly be able to find that on my map here and say, oh, you know what, I've got to pay a supplier you know, before the end of the month. And I know that come the end of the month, I'm going to have another payroll come out like a minute later, right? So I know that I have to finish the month off with a certain amount in the bank, but maybe I know I need to send $2,500 to a supplier. Maybe I pay my American Express card every month on today's date. So that part's easy enough to lay out, and it's easy enough to manually write a formula that totals up your money in and your money out, and even your net cash flow, which is just the function of the difference. So here's where it gets dynamic, because I said, you know, regardless of what I have plotted out in the first part of the month, I need something where I can say, here's my bank balance as of today, and I need the cash flow to start running from that point, because things may not have worked out anything like what I've done throughout the month on the 1st through today, which is the 24th. So I wrote a formula here, and you can look at it on my screen. It's a little long. It's a little crazy. It's a big nested conditional, but it basically analyzes what day are we in. It compares that with today's date, which is pulling from up here, so don't delete that or you will crash this whole thing. A lot of stuff in here that's dependent on what today's date is. So it looks at that, analyzes that, and it says, you know, on the day before today, it assumes that whatever balance you put in is based on yesterday's close of business, right? So, and that way, anything you put in there for today will get factored in. So be aware of that. And notice I put in $2,000 as a starting balance. And so what it does is it analyzes the date and says, okay, we're going to start with that on the day before today. And that way, whatever information is here in today's stuff rolls in, because today may not be over yet. And I may even want to say something like, oh, I need to take a cash withdrawal out, right? Withdrawal. So I go over here to the end and I want to take $300 out, right? So I put that in there and boom, it all calculates. So now what this does, which is what takes all the heavy lifting out of it for you. So what you want to do is plot in your balance as of today. Pick your bank balance or your QuickBooks balance, whichever one you think is more reliable. If your QuickBooks balance is up to date and you've got checks out there that you know you've written that might clear, then you probably want to use the QuickBooks balance, because the QuickBooks balance, of course, reflects those amounts. So you put in that balance, and the map is going to kind of figure out where to start. And then from that point forward in the month, it's going to start rolling in your inflows and subtracting out your outflows, so you can get a sense of where you're going to be at the end of the month. But bottom line, I look here and I see what the ending balance, the ending projected balance is for the end of the month, and I know, or I should know, whether or not that's going to be enough to cover my payroll, because I know that's going to come out on the 1st. And of course, when you're ready to do this for the next month, you can certainly make a copy of this by just duplicating the tab. And if you want to start plotting out next month, instead of having the date dynamically pulling from the clock, which is a simple formula, by the way, as you can see, equals today, open and close parenthesis, you can simply put in March 1st, 2018, for example, and watch what this does. First of all, notice it puts this in as, lights up the 1st of the month, because it's assuming that today is now the 1st. This also dynamically looks up the weekday to see. Now, let me test this out, because it looks like it happens to be that the 1st of March is the same day of the week as the 1st of February was, right? Because if I go back to February, it looks like the 1st was a Thursday. So I want to make sure that's correct. I want to make sure my formulas are working. And as it turns out, yes, March did start on a Thursday. So let's test it. Let's make sure that I'm not completely off here. And if I go in and let's go out to April 1st. Now, April 1st is a Sunday, so let's see if that works. Let's put 4/1/18 in there, and sure enough, it updates. So the days of the week update dynamically based on it's basically just looking up what weekday is the 1st of the month that you're putting in here based on the date that's here. So if you want to get this back to its default, just equals today, open and close parenthesis, and hit enter, and it'll be back to today's date, whatever date that might be. So if you want to project the month ahead of time, just overwrite that with whatever, the first day of the month is that you want to do this for. And then you can start plotting that out. So if you're running up against the end of the month like we are now as of the time I'm recording this, you can start planning the following month, especially since the 1st is usually a big day every month for businesses, where we pay our rent for the office and we often pay payroll and a number of other things. That, my friends, is how you create a cash flow forecast and map. This product is available. Of course, you can create it on your own. Pretty easy to create if you know how to do the dynamic parts. If not, just go pick up a copy in my online store, and once you get it, you'll click File, make a copy. That will put it into your My Drive folder in Google Drive, and you can be off and running in minutes just setting up your own cash flow map. As always, if you have any concerns, comments, questions, post your comments below wherever you happen to be watching this. If it's on YouTube, you can check the description for a link over to my blog so you can read the whole write-up. If you're already on my blog, congratulations. Hope you enjoyed reading it, and please post your comments below. As always, I hope you learned something here, had some fun along the way. I hope you're having an absolutely fantastic day, and I look forward to seeing you on the web.